What's up, guys? It's your boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Pick Droppers, back at it again with an NFL post-game video. Now in this video, I will be going over all the scores of the past week. And in the background, you'll see my free pack and a couple of solos I did. So let's get into the video. Now, first game I have on the list is Cincinnati-Pittsburgh. Now, as a Pittsburgh fan, I'm very happy. And this was a pretty good game. There were no big hits. It didn't really look as bad or bad at all, unlike last year's game. In Cincinnati, even though they had 350 plus passing yards, they weren't able to get it done. And they were only able to score one touchdown, while the Steelers were able to score 3. And they just kept pounding the rock. And they had 32 rushes. I feel like the problem for Cincinnati was that Andy Dalton threw it over 50 times, and A.J. Green only had 2 catches. The Steelers' defense played really good, and the rain did have some effect on the game, for sure. And I'm very surprised that they actually had Andy Dalton throw it that much. Now, the next game on the list is Dallas-Washington. Now, this is a very interesting game. This is definitely a division rivalry, and Dallas came out of the gates up with 10 points in the first quarter, and they looked like they were going to go on to win the game. And then Washington comes back, scores, and then they just keep switching off scores. But Kirk Cousins threw a key pick in the fourth quarter with like 10 minutes to go in the red zone and lost them the game. And Washington, I don't think they'll do too good the rest of the year. Now, the next game I have is Jets-Buffalo. Now, this was the Thursday night game, and this is a very interesting game that went down. The Jets came off just a huge sack game before. Ryan Fitzpatrick throws for almost 375 yards. Matt Forte goes off with 3 touchdowns and 100 yards. And LaShawn McCoy just got shut down on the run. Tyrod Taylor had a pretty good game, though, with almost 300 yards. And Marquise Goodwin had a really good game. And I feel like the key for why the Jets were able to win the game is because Ryan Fitzpatrick played really good. He played like a clutch quarterback, and he had no interceptions, which was key. He did have a fumble, though, which didn't really help. But another big thing that was third down efficiency. Buffalo only converted third downs 3 out of 10 times, while the Jets converted it 8 out of 13 times. And the Jets also won time of possession almost 40 minutes to 20 minutes. And that was big in the loss for Buffalo. Now, the next game I have is Baltimore-Cleveland, another third division rival game. Now, this was a very good game from the second quarter on. First quarter, Cleveland crushed. They were up 20-2 going into the second quarter. Baltimore responds, making it 20-12 going into half, and then going into the fourth quarter is 20-19. And Cleveland just had no answer for the passing game. Dennis Pitta went off. Joe Flacco went off. The Ravens were able to rush the ball 26 times, which is really good. And Cleveland was just not able to establish their passing game. Even though Corey Coleman went off, he was the only one who did well. The next best receiver was the running back, Duke Johnson. Isaiah Crowell, though, played really good, but it just wasn't enough. They weren't able to get any points after the first quarter, and so they weren't able to keep the lead. Next game I have on the list is Tennessee-Detroit. Now, this was a 1-point game. Tennessee was able to hold on to the victory after being down 15-3 going into the fourth quarter. They rallied, get 13 unanswered points, and Marcus Mariota played really good in the fourth quarter. The problem with Tennessee, though, their defense played really bad throughout the whole game pretty much. And 15 points for Detroit, that was because Detroit committed so many penalties. That was a huge reason why. They had 17 penalties for 138 yards. Pretty much even time of possession, but the penalties really killed Detroit. Next game I have on the list is New England-Miami. Now this a huge injury for New England was Jimmy Garoppolo going down injured. They were up like 24-0, and Miami then went off to get it to 31-24, but they didn't have the offensive power to get it to get a victory. Ryan Tannehill went off, but he threw 2 key interceptions, and Ryan Tannehill ran the ball the most on his team, and he ran it for the most yards. Besides Ryan Tannehill, they had 10 rushes, and Arian Foster did go down with a key injury that did slow down Miami's offense, which will be huge in the weeks to come. The next game I have on the list is New Orleans versus the Giants. Now this was a really low-scoring game, which I didn't expect at all. Drew Brees was held to only 263 yards, which is a very low number for him. Sterling Shepard went off, and Eli Manning did really good. The Giants did a really good job of containing Brandon Cooks, which was huge for their victory. Another big thing was the Saints had less than 15 rushes, and I think they need to run the ball more and become two-dimensional. Another big thing was the Giants turned the ball over 3 times on 3 fumbles, but they were still able to come back, which was huge, and they won 16-13, and Drew Brees in the fourth quarter just wasn't able to get the victory. I feel like the reason why they lost was because late in the fourth quarter, they just weren't able to score a touchdown at the end, and instead they scored a field goal. Now the next game I have on my list is San Francisco, Carolina. Now this was a very good game for most of it, for a big part of the game, until the third quarter. Until half, the game was 17-10. Looked like San Francisco was still in the game, and then the fourth quarter happened, and they just got outscored. Or the third quarter happened, and they got outscored 14-0, and they just weren't able to come back from that. Cam Newton went off with 353 yards passing. Fozzie Whitaker went off with 100 yards rushing. Greg Olsen went off with 122 yards receiving. And Carolina's defense stepped up in the third and fourth quarter, and San Francisco's defense just wasn't able to contain Carolina's high-powered offense. Now, the next game I have on the list is Houston, Kansas City. Now, this was a very defensive game the whole game, and J.J. Watt went off again and forced so much pressure on Alex Smith. And Alex Smith had less than 200 yards rushing, which was big for them. J.J. Watt, I'm pretty sure, had a couple of sacks. I think he had a sack or 2. I'm not sure about that, though. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, no, I don't think he did have a sack. But he did play really well. Or no, he had a sack and a half. But J.J. Watt put a lot of pressure, and Kansas City just wasn't able to respond on offense. Houston just shut them down. They weren't able to get the pass game going, and they weren't able to get the rushing game going enough to help out their offense, or to help out their defense, because Kansas City just fell apart late in the fourth, and they just weren't able to score enough points to get the win. Now the next game I have on the list is Los Angeles, Seattle. Now Seattle's offense got shut down the whole game. They didn't have a 100-yard receiver. They only had 60 yards rushing from their main running back. Russell Wilson got shut down the whole game, and all St. Louis needed was 3 field goals to get the win. It was Los Angeles' first game back in Los Angeles in like 20 years, and St. Louis' defense just shut down Seattle, and that was a big game for LA. Now the next game I have on this list is Tampa Bay, Arizona. Now this was also a very bad game. Arizona just crushed Tampa Bay. The first quarter was very boring. It was 0-0. But then in the second quarter, Arizona was able to get 24 points. And that was pretty much game after that. And Winston threw 4 picks, which is definitely way too many. They weren't able to establish the run game with their best rusher getting less than 30 yards. They weren't able to establish the passing game with only completing 52% of their passes. and it was just a rough game for them. And the defense for Arizona stepped up. Were able to get a couple of key picks. Pretty sure they got a key pick 6. And Tampa Bay just had no resolution for Arizona's defense or offense. The next game on the list is Indianapolis-Denver. Now, I knew this was going to be a pretty high-scoring game, but I'm very surprised that Andrew Luck got less than 200 yards. He's just not playing like a good quarterback. He completed just over 50% of his passes. The rushing game was not able to get off the ground. And for Denver, Trevor Siemian was able to outplay Andrew Luck. C.J. Anderson was able to run for over almost 75 yards. And Denver was able to get over 30 rushes. And Denver's defense really stepped up. Andrew Luck only threw for 1 pick, though, so that was pretty good for him. But he also fumbled the ball and lost the fumble. And a key thing was Denver got 5 sacks on Andrew Luck and really forced the pressure. Andrew Luck was not able to throw the ball. That's why he got such minuscule, such little amount of yards. Now, the next game I have on my list is Atlanta-Oakland. Now, Atlanta was able to clutch out the victory late in the 4th, and Matt Ryan threw for almost 400 yards, and Derek Carr was not able to reach 300 yards. Latavius Murray played a pretty good game, but Devontae Freeman just outplayed him, and Atlanta did get a pretty lucky tip touchdown, but Atlanta just outplayed him. It was a very close game, though, but a key thing was third down efficiency. Raiders only converted 5 out of 12 of their third downs. And it was just a high-scoring game. No points in the first, but after the first quarter, in the last 3 quarters, there was 63 points, which is a good amount. And Atlanta just outplayed them. The next game I have on my list is Jacksonville San Diego. Now, San Diego definitely outplayed Jacksonville. Was able to score 38 points on Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense just couldn't step up. While Travis Benjamin had a great game, same as Melvin Gordon. Phillip Rivers had an okay game, but Jacksonville was never able to establish the running game, with Blake Bortles having the most rushing yards for his team. T.J. Yeldon just wasn't able to get anything going. The defense for San Diego really stepped it up, allowing 0 points in the first 3 quarters. And it was just a really bad game by the Jaguars. And that's it. They also had 14 penalties, and San Diego only had 3, which was huge for Jacksonville. It was just a very sloppy game for Jacksonville. Now, the next game I have on my list is Green Bay, Minnesota. Now, this was a great game to watch. I loved watching this. Sam Bradford outplayed Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers got less than 215 yards, which is very unusual for him. Eddie Lacy got 50 yards. But a big thing for Minnesota is they weren't able to get their run game going, but that was because AP got injured. I'm pretty sure it was early in the 3rd, and so they got less than 20 yards rushing out of their number 1 rusher. But Stephon Diggs really stepped it up, was able to get 182 receiving yards. Jordy Nelson just wasn't able to find his groove with Aaron Rodgers, and neither Randall Cobb could find his groove, and Minnesota just locked down on defense. Aaron Rodgers fumbled the ball 3 times, only lost 1 though, and that was very pivotal in the game. And Devontae Adams also fumbled and lost that. And Minnesota just outplayed Green Bay on the defensive side. Now, the last game I have is Philadelphia-Chicago. Now, this was a very sloppy game for Chicago, which I'm not really surprised by. And Chicago just wasn't able to score on offense, only scored 7 points in the first 3 quarters, and then their backup scored the last touchdown. Jay Cutler threw for just over 150 yards, which is not acceptable. Jeremy Langford, their number 1 rusher, got less than 30 yards. The only player that played good in this game was Alshon Jeffrey, who almost got 100 receiving yards. And Chicago just wasn't able to stop Philadelphia's blitz. Now that's it, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Please like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and write a comment down below on what you would like to see next. It's your boy Pick Droppers, and I'm out. Peace!